Welcome back to Cruder.com. In this fourth video on lookup and reference formulas, we're going to be going over the index and match functions, which are the most powerful lookup and reference formulas. Okay, so we're going to use this purchasing data table again. First look at this match formula, and the match formula, we used it in the VLOOKUP formula when we made it dynamic, but we didn't really talk about it too much. So it returns a relative position, and the keyword here is relative, of an item in an array that matches a specified value in a specified order. So if I open it up, it's asking, all right, what am I looking up? Let's just say we want to look up something in these column headings. So I want to look up, say, date. Let's see where date is. And the lookup array is, let's look up all of these. And let's put another comma, and then the match type. So the match type right here, it says less than, exact match, or greater than. Well, we want an exact match. We want it to exactly equal date. And since it's within this, obviously it's going to find it when it starts looking at each individual column. So let's put 0 for exact match, and in the parentheses, and hit enter. And it says 3. Okay, so what does 3 mean? 3 means that Excel came through this array and said, all right, it's not on number 1, it's not on number 2, but it's on the third piece of data. It's on the third column in this array. So that's why it returned 3. Now let's go ahead and type an index formula and understand why this is so useful, that match formula. So index, and index, if you look here, it says it returns a value or a reference of a cell at an intersection of a particular row and column in a given range. So I think of this as like battleships. You know, you say like C5, and then you say sunk my battleship, whatever. So this is the exact same thing, calling it out on the which column and which row, and at that intersecting point, that's where this index function is coming into play. So as you can see here, it actually has 2 different ways of writing it, but really what we want to do is just the array and the row and column, and this is usually the one that you're going to be using. So the array is this entire table. So this table, and I'm going to lock it up with F4 just for the heck of it. So F4, and the dollar signs are absolute now, and comma the row number. So which row in this table do I want to have my, battleship being sunk at? So let's just say row 10, which is actually not 10, it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll say 4, comma, and then the column number, we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just do 4 again. And let's see where this pops into. So 3902 was here, came over 4, and this is the intersecting point, 3902. Now this is pretty cool, but it's not dynamic whatsoever. I mean, I had to literally type 4 and 4 just to get to this point. So what I normally would want to do is say, hey, wherever I see in this list the item ID number, let's say 2380 right here, this row, I want you to find this row, and then I want to pull back one of these column pieces of information. So that match formula is perfect for things like this. So match, and I want to look up, the lookup value is an item ID number like 2380 right here, and I want it to look up within this array, so this column, holding Control Shift and just hitting down, will extend it to the bottom, and locking up with F4, comma, the match type, again, let's just make this exact so it exactly hits this item ID. So 0 and the parentheses, and hit enter. Let me scroll up. So 6 is returned. So let's go ahead and edit this formula right here and use that 6, or reference this cell. So this was in the rows. So I want to say this row here, I no longer want it to say 4. I want it to say, hey, I want you to reference this formula, and hit enter. Now it sees, all right, 2380, because I was looking up on the 4th column. So whatever it was, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it hit here and here, okay? So the next thing is well, I don't want to see the 4th column, I want to see the 5th column. And right here, you see, hit here, and then there's 400 quantity. Okay, so this is kind of neat, and we can substitute this formula that we're referencing, so holding Shift and pressing home, copying it, coming up into this formula, hitting F2, and replacing this reference K18 with that formula I just copied, so pasting it in and hitting enter. It still dynamically works. Now I can delete the 6, and this formula is typed like this. So the thing about the index formula is it's super dynamic. It's the ultimate reference formula, but it's more complicated than VLOOKUP. The VLOOKUP is much more popular because of its simplicity. Now the index formula is less common, but yet it's more powerful, where you can look up maybe not even going to the right. So in VLOOKUP, you can only go to the right. You can't look to the left. But with an index formula, you can look left, you can look right. You can pull any piece of data within this table, and you can look up on any column. You don't have to be on the leftmost column to have your lookup value. So this is what I'm saying by it can't look left. But within the index function, you can look left. Now let's go ahead and see if we can look to the left. So let's just type in column 1. Column 1 would be 3443. So we were looking in this row right now, so 3443 and the PO number. This makes sense. Now that this is making sense, let's go ahead and write a dynamic index value formula here using or referencing the item ID and column values that are returned from the match formulas. And so to do this, let's use data validation for both of these values. And so to do that, we're going to go ahead and going to data, and we're going to say data validation again. And we're going to allow only a list of values. And the source for this one, so we're doing item number. So I want to make all of the items within this table. And these are all unique items that we've been purchasing in this purchasing data. And just hit OK. So now you can see my arrow popping down. I have all my item IDs here. The next thing is columns. So same thing, data validation, and go into list, and let's source it and put in these column headers. So holding Control and Shift to the right, it selects the entire range across there, and hit OK. Same thing occurs here, drop down arrow with all my pieces of data. And let's set our intersecting points right now. So the item number, let's just look for something random like this. And the column, let's return the buyer name. And let's type this index formula. So index, and open it up, array, again, it's just this whole data set right here, this data table. I'm going to lock it up with F4 just so you get in the habit of doing that, comma, the row number. Okay, so the row number, we want it to match the item number. So I'm going to use that match formula. So I'm going to type match, and I want to match this value right here. So I'm referencing it, comma, the lookup array is in the item field. So it's really important that you don't start taking it from here down because the formula won't work. You need to have the exact same height. So it needs to start at the top, Control Shift down, all the way down, and then have the exact same length all the way to the bottom. So I'm lock that up with F4, comma, match type 0, and the parentheses. Now I'm going to hit a comma again, so I'm back to the index formula. Let me scroll up. And the column number is what we're looking for next. And we have the column number as buyer, so we want to match buyer on here. So it needs to be this last column that we want to find wherever this item ID is at. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's type in match once again. And when the lookup value is, let's reference this column field and comma, lookup array. Again, I'm going to start on the very leftmost, and it has to be just the same length or width this time as the table array that we're referencing. So Control Shift and over, put in those dollar signs with F4, comma, match type 0, and the parentheses, and the parentheses for the index function, and hit enter. So JJB is the purchaser on this item at this index point. And just like every formula that you do your first time, you want to trust it, but you also want to verify it. So you want to go over and just verify that this item here, I just found it right here, 2198. Go over and across, you can see JJB is the buyer on it. Now let's go ahead and extract this formula and just kind of see what it's doing. So let's pull out these formulas here. I'm going to just hit copy. So I'm going to copy this, and let's put it in the first one. So I'm going to say equals paste, and that's coming back on the 13th row. Then let's go in here and take out this one as well. So I'm going to copy this and just replace this right here, Control V, and let's just change this to match formulas, and we'll call this the row and match space dash column. And so in here we no longer want to see that the column is this or the row is that. We want to just say reference it, the row here, and reference the column here, and hit enter. So it's still JJB, right? And now if we change this to, let's say right here, 3218, it finds it on row 15. And the buyer, which column is this? Well, let's do PO number. It should be 1, right? And you can see that So 3218, 3218, where is it at? 15 rows down, 3218 right here. And over to the left is the first column, and that's 3443, just as you see here. So this is how it's working. So if I pull it all apart and take out the match formulas and then just reference them in here, so I kind of went backwards in this instance where normally I write it separately and then I stick it in. But this way now you can see that, hey, you can pull it out and do the reverse.